Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanscha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Stadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. So we are continuing with Sri Sanatana Goswami's Brhad Bhagavatamrta, second part, chapter 5, Priyanama. Sri Gopakumara said, Bho Brahmin, therefore, on my arrival at Dwarka, I saw the adolescent Yadavas in their respective groups, along with some of Brahmin youths of Mathura in their delightful merrymakings. To speak the truth, I roamed about all the worlds, but nowhere else I could find such excellence of beatitude as it was characterized in the very person of the adolescent Yadavas.
Madan, you're just a little bit out of sync. I'm not sure if your Wi-Fi it's looking a little.
Okay.
Even
Maybe we just
the
bear with
picture.
it.
Yeah, no, the picture just was. Anyway, just carry on. I just thought, as no,
Okay.
sorry.
Where was I? Their fascinating beauty enthralled me so much at the very sight of them that I totally forgot to pay my homage to them. But as it were, they, having power to read my heart, runningly approached me, and each one of them embraced me, making me bathed in joyful tears. Lo, they had such a spiritual vision that at once they could know me as a Gopaputra, son of a Gopa, spiritually residing at Govardhan, the transcendental sportive land of Sri Krishna, and without any loss of time they most affectionately caught hold of my hand and took me to the inner compartment of the palace. Ah, to my great good luck, from a distance I could see my most beloved Sri Bhagavan blissfully seated on a most beautiful golden throne bedecked with emerald, and on it was placed a silk cushion. The Lord was most brilliantly shining with all the glories of Vaikuntha. The Lord, at his adolescence, was emblazoned with the lustrous glory of the blooming prime of youth, and his most blissful hands were ever symbolically mating for embracing his beloved devotees, making, as it were, robbed of their heart and soul on their onlooking at the most fascinating and surmounting effluence of his brilliantly effulgent body. Ah, he is the very ocean of sportive bliss, where the swan-like and crest-jewel devotees are intoxicated in their merrymaking. On the top of his head is shining a beautiful white umbrella, and from both sides white chamaras were sweetly and charmingly wafted. In front, on a golden footholder, his very grace-showering Sri footwears are placed. In all respects, the chamber was shining as the court of the King of Kings, and the attendants were busy but delightfully engaged in their respective duties. All glories with their full majesty were prevailing all round. By the right side of the Lord was seated Sri Vasudeva, Sri Balarama, Akrura, and others. And by his left were King Ugrasena, along with Gada, Satyaki, and many other Yadavas. On their left, Sri Vikadru, the minister, Kritavarma, the commander-in-chief, and also many other kings, native, were assembled there. Whereas Sri Narada was performing bhajan, playing on his veena and singing the glories of the Lord with stately, ecstatic dance, and sometimes also cutting jokes in creating a delightful laughing sensation to the Lord. Sri Garuda was seated in front of the Lord with his folded palms, with prayers, and Sri Uddhava, the dearest one to the Lord, was attending at the feet of the Lord and was intimating the Lord with most interesting tiding that the gopis of Braja, and in such an affirmative cleverness that nobody else except the Lord could hear it. Ah, the most beloved one, for whom so long I was longing day and in and day out, now at the very vision of him I entered into the world of ecstasy, and at once fell unconscious due to the spiritual perturbations. In the meanwhile, the Lord, out of his abounding affection, especially for me, asked Sri Uddhava to bring me by his close side. Sri Uddhava hurriedly approached me and felt extremely delighted observing me as a Gopakumara. He comforted me, and with his pleasantly nourishing words I was composed and regained my senses. He caught hold of my hands and took me by the side of the Lord. Ah, what a glory! The Lord got up from his throne just to heartily welcome me, but most cleverly Sri Uddhava promptly made me bow down and place my head at the lotus feet of the Lord. Ah, Sri Krishna, the very stay of my life, began to pet me most affectionately by placing his lotus palms on my body. Next, he took away the flute that I was holding at my hand, and indifferently looking at it, became speechless, and his burning heart gave way to a flood of tears that rolled down his cheeks. After a while, making himself a little composed, he asked, "Bo, Gopakumara, are you quite at home? I hope nothing stands inauspicious on your way of happiness." So saying, suddenly his voice was choked with deep thought, and an unprecedented divine perturbation got manifested on his person. But Sri Uddhava, being the best mediator, could study the mind of the Lord and promptly try to bring him an immediate change of his thought by bringing to his notice of those, viz. Vasudeva and Ugrasena, Yadavas and the rishis who were seated at the assembly. The Lord, who was keeping his eyes closed due to the absorbed provocation of Brajalila, then with great difficulty opened his eyes, and at the very sight of the assemblage he composed himself and wanted to enter into his private chamber just to get rid of the changed mood. Sri Gopakumara further said, "Having gained the lifelong cherished desired object of my life, I began to float in the ocean of bliss. I was in such a spiritual excitement that I totally forgot what to do and what to speak. The Lord, before leaving the assembly, honored the elder Yadavas who just got up to go for their respective places with offering betals and sandalwood paste. Then he caught hold of my folded palms and took me into his private chamber along with Sri Balarama and Sri Uddhava. There all the beloved queens numbering 16,108, along with their respective attendant maidservants, being led by Rohini Devi, mother of Sri Baladeva, and also Sri Devaki Devi, beloved mother of the Lord, came to the courtyard just to wish him. Among the queen's dearest ones were Sri Rukmini, Sri Satyabhama, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, Satya, Bhadra, and Lakshmana, and those girls who were saved by the Lord from the prison of Narakasura. And next, on their prayer for the fulfillment of their soul's desire, the Lord married all of them, of whom Rohini was the principal one. In brackets, different from Mother Rohini, mother of Baladeva, end of brackets. Those queens also equally possessed of all divine qualities and were the sweethearts of their only and common husband Sri Krishna. They were also with their respective maidservants. The Lord, associated with his mothers, Rohini and Devaki, and the queens, who were the very quintessence of love embodiment, along with their sons, entered into his private palace. Now he redressed his provocating thought of the pangs of separation of Brajalila, and pleasantly sat on a best comfortable seat. But hip hip hurrah! What a vision had I! Sri Devaki appeared to me as Sri Yashoda, and the queens as many gopis of Braja, and their children as Gopakumaras. Ah, the Lord of Sri Dwarka himself took my flute and manifested himself as Sri Madana Gopala, the very presiding deity of ever-loving sentiment. The very palatable scene of Braja prevailed around, and the vision thereof took me to the world of ecstasy, and once again I lost my consciousness. That Nandanandana, Sri Krishna, hurriedly approached me and most affectionately comforted me, placing his most soft lotus palm on my body. Though it was becoming late for his repast, yet he didn't express any desire. But on the repeated request from his mothers, he took his bath and finished other rites. Then Sri Devaki Nandan Sri Krishna fed me with his own hand, and then took his repast, very little, and that too for my satisfaction. Ah, what did he do? He made Sri Balaram seated in the midst of the Kumaras, his own sons, and himself served them, which reminded me of his boyhood Leela at Vrindavan. Sri Uddhava, who fully knew the very sentiment of the Lord, after partaking the remnant from the plate of the Lord, treated me as his dearest one, holding my hands, and forcibly took me as his dearest one to his own cottage. So long I was at a spiritual perturbation, and only after approaching the most fascinating cottage of Sri Uddhava I got back my normal condition. But now I could finally perpetuate upon the observation that I had, and got extremely ejaculated, considering that I ultimately got fulfilled my cherished desire. I began to dance, so saying, "Oh, what a bliss! I am now at the top of the ladder. Today I could meet the very paramour lover of Braja, the very enchanting honeymooner of my love-laden heart. Since long, for whom I was passionately longing for, and so long whose fascinatingly illustrious, beatific manifestation was the very shining gem of my love-laden inner bosom, now that the very same one I meet in person here and now." Do you want to have a go, Kana?
Yeah. Yep.
Go on then.
All right. I've got this thing here. Thereafter, thereafter, whenever I went along with Sri Uddhava to meet the beloved Lord then and there, I was absorbed with the same blissful rapture, and so practically I could render no service at all to him. As such, accordingly, I was bathed in abounding blessings of the Lord all the while, and as it were, I was floating into the current of the nectarine blissful ocean, that ecstatic, rapturous feeling even the goddess of learning herself, with her head and heart, feels incapacitated to do proper justice of narration. Nay, even the very great devoted saints, although favored with the longevity as long as Brahma's lifetime, cannot exhaustively keep account of it. The mumukshus, what a bliss they derive at their final attainment if that is multiplied into myriad crores of time that may not even be equivalent to the bliss derived at Vaikuntha. To make plain speaking, the crest jewel devotees of Bhagavan justify that the bliss concocted at the spiritual land of Ayodhya is surmounting to the bliss of Vaikuntha, whereas the super excellence of the bliss of Dwaraka is so immeasurable that none could fathom it and put a boundary to it. Ah, what a glorious and magnificently luminous magnanimity of the transcendental bliss, augmented by the devotees of Dwaraka. Ah, further, what more? Yet, who is the very apple of the eye, and who is the very presiding deity of the heart and of the devotee's soul? He himself even longs for the beauty of his own original self, who is none other than Sri Nanda Kishore, darling of Sri Nanda of Raja, and which is, with his transcendental beatific personality, the most super excellent nectarine bliss thereof, concocted by the exceptionally fortunate devotees of Raja. Ah, how it is possible for him to give expression to such immeasurably fathomless and ocean-like glories of rapturous sentiment, even if he puts his head and heart to do so. Those who are immersed into that ocean of nectarine bliss, they alone know the characteristic super-excellence of it, the eternally born, paramount, spiritual sentiment alone can have the succulence of the excellent bliss. While I was most happily spending my days at Dwarka, without any modification of my Gopa dress, the Yadavas, with their kindest affections, wanted to study my inner feeling as well as significantly my attachment to my particular dressing. Sri Yadavas said, "Bo, friend, how is that although you are associating yourself with us at this most magnanimous and gloriously divine land of Dwarka, which is surpassing even Sri Vaikuntha, yet you are having the poor garment of a Gopa Balaka? Really, we do not at all like your dressing. When we see you with such poor dress, it pines at our heart. Therefore, we suggest that you immediately wear the royal garment as we all have done." Sri Gopakumar said, "Po, Brahmana, though they were very particular that I should change my dress and put on in accordance with the royal dignity of the place, yet I could not comply with their suggestion. Especially the beloved Lord did not make any remark in this respect of my wearing such garments, which they considered a poor show. Anyhow, continued to be amongst them as a humble self. Sometimes it so happened that I felt ashamed and also afraid to approach Sri Krishna at his assembly, when most venerable and powerful rishis were paying their homage to his lotus feet with eloquent panegyrics. Again, at times I could notice him with 4 arms. when I was deprived of visualizing the beatific aspect of sweet Raja Leela of Sri Krishna at Dwarka itself, whereas it was not so spontaneous, that of Raja being here interrupted with the observation of Sri Krishna's majestic aspect of his divinity. Again, sometimes Sri Krishna happened to be out of my sight when he went alone to meet his dearest ones, Pandavas, who were remaining at a very short distance. Vartamanana Durata. Therefore, at his absence, I could pine, I think it's a typo. I could pine very much in my heart, yet at the next moment, while I drank deep the beauty and the surmounting glories of the Lord, I could console myself. Ah, what an abounding bliss! His nectarine words created such an enchantment to me that how my tongue can give expression to that succulent taste. I was in that rapturous mood for quite a good deal of time at the residence of Sri Uddhava, although at times I felt the pangs of Raja, yet I could not allow others to read out my heart. One day, while I met Sri Narad privately at the very cottage of Sri Uddhava, after paying my homage, out of excessive love and inquisitiveness, I asked him, "O Muni, the dearest Parshada devotee of the Lord, while I went to Swarga, there I saw you in the same Muni dress, pleasing the Lord, singing the glories of him, playing on your veena. The same I observed at Vaikuntha, and now I find here too without any change. It struck me with wonder that how you are in all the worlds at one and the same time. Kindly let me know the secret thereof." Sri Narad said, "Woe, Gopa Balaka, really you are in your spiritual essence, an eternal cowherd boy of Raja. Ah, even after residing here, you could not give up the pranks of a cowherd. Have I not disclosed the secret of this truth beforehand to you?" As Bhagavan Sri Krishna at a time stays in his different forms at different worlds by dint of his Prabhav and Vaibhava Leela, his devotees as we are, also accordingly in our several manifestations, may stay at those respective worlds in accordance with the perspective spiritual sentiment to render our service to the Lord. Likewise, Sri Garuda, Shesha, Sri Hanuman, Uddhav, and Yadavas, and all such Parshada devotees, are manifested in several forms and constantly attend the respective incarnations of the Supreme Lord. For instance, Garuda is known as the carrier of the Lord of Vaikuntha, whereas the same Garuda eternally remains at Dwarka too in his other self. Accordingly, Sri Hanuman eternally stays at the Kimpurusha world, whereas the fact is that wherever the glorification of Sri Ramachandra is done, there remains Sri Hanuman in his same spiritual form. We are the eternal Parshada devotees of the Lord and eternally engaged in his loving service. Whenever the Lord is fond of enacting a particular Leela in accordance with his sweet will, we become his attendants. Therefore, as is the Lord, so also we become many at a time to follow his suit. Similarly, Sri Krishna's Nama, Leela, sportive land, and paraphernalia have got their different manifestations, but they maintain their respective identity. Therefore, all of them are eternally true. That is, although they are having their respective manifestations, yet ontologically, everywhere, they are identical to their respective nomenclature. Bo Gopakumar, you too have achieved your transcendental characteristic as we have possessed and got your eternal existence at Vaikuntha. But how is that yet you maintain the same sentiment and pranks as before, I wonder? Nay, greater wonder is that, even having stayed at this, Dwarka, you are still wanting something more, as if you are much distressed for non-availability of that. How is that? Sri Gopakumar said, on understanding that Sri Narad has perfectly studied my heart, I clasped the feet of Sri Narad and humbly said, Bo, the omniscient Rishi, what have I got to say? Nothing is unknown to you of my innermost self. At which Sri Narad smiled and pointing out to Uddhava said so. Sri Narad said, Bo, Uddhava, what a mystery! This cowherd boy, being eternally spiritually born at Govardhan, cherishes such a transcendently paramount sentiment of love, the reciprocity of which perhaps is wanting even at this majestic manifestation of Sri Krishna himself at Dwarka. It is true that neither you nor I myself can achieve such bliss of Raja here, although having only the object in view by dint of burning desire, of feeding that hunger-maddened past through all the worlds, yet nowhere that cherishing hunger could be sumptuously fed to his contentment as the Chataka bird cannot be quenched its thirst without the waters from the sky. So even at these transcendental worlds, his mysteriously paramount and transcendental sentiment is not concocted. Therefore, naturally, there is a wind in his mind all the while. Ah, what a pity! Uddhava, when you have well studied the heart of the inhabitants of Raja, and accordingly you reciprocate to some extent the heart of the inhabitants of Raja, and accordingly you reciprocate to some extent the pang of their love in separation, then why have you not consoled this Gopa Balaka, who is remaining by your side at least for the time being by feeding his sentiment? This Gopa Balaka, what in his concoction has gained that attainment of Goloka? Nay, even we pray for culturing that sadhana to gain it, but really incapacitate to do so, because that particular sentiment cannot be imbibed without the inborn natural intuition of the unstinted soul that is eternally born at that transcendental land of Raja. Sriman Uddhava said, Oh, dear Nada, this Gopakumar is born at Raja, where he eternally tends the cows in lieu of his very essential characteristic, especially his inalienable love for Gopal, is far superior to that we possess. On hearing such utterances of Uddhava, Sri Narad Sri Narad got ejaculated, and with a hearty embrace to Uddhava said, Oh, Uddhava, you should accordingly advise this Gopa Balaka, so that he may concoct to his feeling. Sri Uddhava said, Oh, the great Muni, you do know I am by birth a Kshatriya, especially when you, the very perfect preceptor of Bhakti school, are present here. How can it be justified for me to pronounce any lesson to one? At such remarks, Sri Narad with a loud laugh told Uddhava, Hello, Uddhava! Even at this Vaikuntha, you could not dispense with your feeling as a Satriya by birth. Sri Uddhava smilingly said, Why, is it only the matter with us? Ah, our Lord Sri Krishna himself even does act as a Kshatriya. Lord Sri Krishna did his Leela at Dwarka on earth, which was the very replica of the Vaikuntha Dwarka. He observed his spiritual rites as well as household life acts of conquering the enemies and honoring the pious Brahmins at this Vaikuntha Dwarka also, though the Supreme Lord, even at Vaikuntha Dwarka, he has not foregone them. Would you like to carry on?
All right.
That was good. I could read some more, but I need a break.
Okay.
It's absolutely beautiful. That was really lovely, and
Yeah, really well read.
lovely story. It's so beautiful.
Thanks.
So I'll carry on then.
Yep.
So soon these mysterious words of Uddhava were heard by Sri Narada. He, in an ecstatic mood, laughed loudly and almost with a stately dance from the top of his voice shouted, "Oh, what a mystery! As is the mystical Leela of Bhagavan, where there is uncountable precious gems in that fathomless ocean-like beatific Leela, so also is the inscrutable mysterious love of his unalloyed confidant devotees. Ah, what a mystery! This great God, what Leela he did at Dwarka on this earth, the same enactment he does at this Dwarka, which is above of Vaikuntha, for the entertainment of his associate devotees. Ah, we, the omniscients, are never even puzzled to realize the mysticism of his Leelas. What to say, whether we are at Dwarka on this earth or at the one which is above Vaikuntha, even making this distinction itself is a matter of mystery. Bo Uddhava, the devotees like you are so justifiably imbued with prema bhakti at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, to whom the devotees are everything. Also, he betakes his forms in accordance with the sentiment of his devotees. He is the supreme autocrat, but is subdued to his devotees. On that account, whether you are living at Vaikuntha or at this world, everywhere, you all have got self-same spiritual nature, and accordingly the Lord also, to the fulfillment of your spiritual sentiment, does betake to his sweet beatitude manifestation, covering his majestic aspect and ever presenting himself, as it were, the dear one, friendly one, and closely related one. Therefore, as you all are the Parshada devotees of Sri Krishna, the dealing thereof with the Lord is the transcendental characteristic feature. Being fully imbued with the prema bhakti, so naturally you show your humbleness and insignificancy. Whereas these two natural qualities, as it were, two mammal glands on the bosom of womanhood, to all comprehensive magnanimity of the feeling of the sentiment, and Sri Krishna's dealing as a gross materialistic human being, indulging in sensual pleasures and looking after the welfare of his kith and kin, are beyond the understanding of any human intellect. But such leelas of the Lord are ever done through his supralogical power, which are transcendental. They have got no concern with any worldliness. These transcendental features in the characteristic of Sri Krishna are the very divine mysteries to his beatitude self-same divinity, self-some divinity. The maddening cupidity of a premic at its zenith of love is beyond the susceptibility of any mundane merit. One devoid of that particular spiritual sentiment cannot understand the mysterious characteristic of that pregnant love. The current of the flood of prema is so great that it inundates the very Lord, and he, being infatuated by their love, deals with them as an endearing one in relation to the material world. Oh, let me pray for having imbued with that unalloyed spiritual sentiment by which Sri Krishna is made to be a dear one, where his majesty is naturally subjugated to the beatific aspect of his selfsome divinity. He becomes closest one and the dearest one. Sri Gopakumara said, "O Brahmana, while Sri Narada was in that way churning the nectarine ocean of the esoteric Leela glories of Sri Krishna, he became intoxicated with the loving lore of the Lord, and in lieu of spiritual perturbation, different ecstatic modes got manifested on his person. For some time he became motionless, and then, observing me, a thirsty soul for drinking further of the nectarine bliss of esoteric Leela of Sri Krishna, he began to narrate thus." Sri Narada said, "Bo, the fortunate one to the Lord of Braja, there is a far, far superior spiritual and transcendental realm than this divine Dwarka, which is known as Sri Goloka. That Goloka is the topmost realm, as it were, the very crown of Vaikuntha, the sanctum sanctorum of Vaikuntha. Therefore, that is the paramount transcendental plane to be ever aspired for by the most selected and chosen adherent ones of that supreme God par excellence. The very replica of that transcendental Goloka is the Braja of Mathura circle, and Sri Brindavan is the very heart and soul of that circle. This Mathura circle is known as Goloka, for it has got numerous gods who all gratify the supra-transcendental land, and is the very spiritual plane where Sri Krishna enacted his super excellent and most mysterious divine sports. Only those who are fortunate indeed to imbibe the spiritual, transcendental, and super excellent sentiment of prema of Braja Gopis or Gopas, they alone can attain this Goloka. One must subjugate and sublimate his spiritual sentiment under the supervision of the Braja Gopa Gopis. Then only eligibility of inhabitation at this Goloka is granted. If a devotee's heart is augmented with the outlook of feeling the divinity of Sri Krishna, his majesty, then he can never conceive of the transcendental spiritual pregnancy of Braja Prema. You want to have a go, can't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rightly, Sri Krishna himself has said, "The devotee who looks upon me as the Lord, and upon himself as an inferior being, cannot enthrall me who is enthralled by love and love alone. The maidens who love me most dearly chide me in their sulks. Their reproaches fascinate me more than the hymns of the Vedas. Mother Yashoda binds me, as she is always aware that I am her little darling. Inspired by the sentiments of pure friendship, my friends climb onto my shoulders and say, 'Surely you are not a great one.' So this supernatural and transcendental prema to Sri Nandanandana Swayam Bhagavan can be cultured only when there remains not even the least superiority feeling of Sri Krishna. But it should be cautioned that although this type of dealing with Sri Krishna may appear as mundane, it is not at all so. Neither this kind of familiarity with Krishna Bhagavan can be found in the 14 worlds, nor in the 8 shells above the universe, nor even at that transcendental world of Vaikuntha, and it can much less be thought of. Here, for Vrajaprema, Sri Krishna is the be-all and end-all. Apparently, this Vrajaprema looks like a gross materialistic one, but characteristically it is superhuman, transcendental, and the very treasure house of most brilliantly shining paramountship of divine love beyond which no spiritual sentiment can penetrate. With his reality thus fully concealed by his own yoga maya, and sporting as an ordinary cowherd boy, Sri Krishna, whose tender feet are caressed by Goddess Lakshmi, and sported like a rustic in the company of the rustics. On account of this rapturous reciprocity, the Vrajagopa and Gopis, freely without any awe and reverence, render this loving affectionate prema to their only beloved and Kynosure, Sri Krishna, the darling of what is that word?
Cynosure.
Cynosure, okay. To their only beloved and cynosure, Sri Krishna, the darling of Rajendranandan. Whereas at Vaikuntha, the presiding deity is the Lord with the full majesty, and so awe and reverence restrict the free flow of passionate rustic love. And at Ayodhyapuri, which you visited within the jurisdiction of Sri Vaikuntha, it is also a divine plane dominated by the majesty, therefore it also restricts the flow of free love. And again, this Dwarka has got still more majesty. So Sri Krishna has preserved Sri Golokadam above everything. The rapturous, super excellent, and paramount love law got its momentum only at Golokadam, where Sri Krishna, the supreme par excellence, is embraced passionately into the bosom of his paramour Cupid beloveds, the damsels of Raja, the very manifestation of his Swarup Shakti. Here, the Hladini Shakti of his own potency in her highest evolute unfoldment is in merry-go-round with him when prema love sports enter into its acme, producing the overflowing ocean of nectarine bliss, and nowhere else it can be traced out. Oh ho, how far can I fly? I have come to the conclusion that Sri Hari has ever unfolded his most glorious, esoteric, and mysteriously beatific personality, which is the essence of his own self-sum manifestation, Svavesvara, at Goloka alone. This Goloka is situated at the top of the Vaikuntha. Therefore, the Mathura circle, viz. Golok, which is the replica and projected as it is with its all transcendentalism, is definitely the very crown and the highest spiritual treasure of the universe. All glories to that Goloka, which appears as the Mathura circle on earth. What little can I speak of its super excellent glories? In accordance with the transcendental features, the Vraja land, Gokula, where the transcendental childhood of Sri Krishna was spent, within the Mathura circle is having far surpassing spiritual significance than that of Vaikuntha. Nay, who can count the esoteric glories of that Gokula even? Oh, friend, my tongue is dancing with the ecstatic enchantment. I cannot hold my tongue. Now listen very attentively. I now will unfold without any reserve the treasures of my hidden heart in disclosing the ocean-like glories of Gokula. Sri Krishna, the selfsome, supreme, Swayam Bhagavan, the presiding deity of Goloka, for fulfilling his cherished desire and to bestow his esoteric, super excellent, transcendental, and hitherto unknown love law, made his full manifestation at Gokula in the circle of Mathura at the end of a particular Dvapara Yuga. In that particular Dvapara, he took within himself all other incarnations in his own very person. Therefore, he himself, being the Avatari, fountainhead of all incarnations. All other incarnations have their very characteristic in his very person, that is, he himself at any time can enact the respective role of all other avatars, besides his own super-transcendental characteristic. Along with this super-spiritual, transcendental manifestation, all the Vishnus, including Sri Narayan of Vaikuntha, with their paraphernalia, join with him, but they keep hiding themselves in his person, and only at times they act in accordance with his sweet will. Nay, even Mahalakshmi of Sri Vaikuntha is kept aside, and we, the associate eternal devotees, are also left behind when he descends at that Gokula in Mathura circle on earth. What a glory! Our Lord, no doubt, eternally is performing his leelas with his respective associate devotees in different divine realms to the perspective of his devotees' spiritual sentiment. But nowhere else he is so enthralled by love as he is infatuated and enthralled by love sports at Vraja. Therefore he makes his descent with the role as it suits his whole majesty at Gokula. He joins with the people there, as it were. He passionately covets free and unstinted affection and love of theirs. The bliss which he never bestows with that unprecedented esoteric aspect of his divine manifestation in full, he most graciously makes on earth. It was out of his own prerogative, and specially for the chosen crest-jewel devotees alone, the supreme bliss of joining with his Leela pastimes is made available. Whoa, Gopakumar! When Sri Krishna descends on earth in his own self-some original form, as I have told you that all other manifestations, including Sri Narayan of Vaikuntha, take shelter in his person. Therefore, on such occasions, the Lord of Vaikuntha is not found in his realm, which you personally also observed during your sojourn at Vaikuntha. But it is practically not possible for one to realize the most esoteric aspect of his descent at Raj. Therefore, as per the respective spiritual sentiment, some rishis may observe that Sri Narayan of Vaikuntha has appeared at Mathura. Some others realize in him the incarnation of the Lord of Thousand Hoods, Shesha Bhagavan, still others as the Narayan, or Sri Vishnu, or Kshirodakayashai, Vishnu, or Keshava. The truth is that according to the perspectives of different grades of devotees, with spiritualism, the respective manifestations of him are recorded. So, in accordance with their spiritual sentiment to the respective deity, the Arya Rishis have glorified him in the Shastras as such. But all those soul-realized Rishis with one voice have declared that the Lord himself has descended in Mathura. So from their statement, it is proved that all the respective realms of Vaikuntha, along with their presiding deities, descended at the Mathura circle, and when the respective deities of Vaikuntha could be visualized in the very person of Sri Krishna by the respective devotees thereby, it is also proved, without any contradiction, that Sri Krishna is the fountain source of all of them, holding them in his very person, which is not possible by any other incarnation except Swayam Bhagavan. He, in his own self-same original form. But you should know pretty well that Sri Krishna of Goloka, in his own self-some original form, ever shines at Vraja realm on this earth, with all his transcendental esoteric sports, which are supra-mundane, and hence beyond reason. This Vraja realm is also his eternal sportive land, the very replica of Goloka. Ah, when I find no other element here to disturb the sentiment, let me glorify to some extent the pastimes of Goloka. Shriman Uddhava, who is present here, naturally has his unalloyed affinity towards the Gopa and Gopis of Vraja, and yourself, when born in the land of Vraja. I will have no interruption in my narration. As esoteric aspect of divinity should not be spoken to an unwanted person, whereas the bud is naturally to blossom at proper sunshine. The acme of his love pastimes at Raja is most esoteric, but flows in unreserved ways to the lucid taste of his associated Gopa Gopis. The fragrance of that paramount transcendental love is so lustrous that he himself is enthralled, and what a glory! He, the very treasure of all the wealths of beauty, is more beautified at the very presence of the gopis. Ah, nay, the very goddess of compassionate love shines here with her super-excellent special characteristic. What a nectarine bliss! What an abounding grace! And what a brilliantly shining enchantment of his beatific manifestation! That Vraja of Nanda has become the very seat of all the divine glories and prosperity, turning into the very sportive land of Mahalakshmi, goddess of glories of Vaikuntha. Ah, this goddess Lakshmi is the very source of power to Brahma and Shiva. A very little favor from her made Brahma and Shiva so powerful, she with all her glories is shining here. Ah, what a transcendental glory of that land! Even a tree, creeper, nay, even a leaf and flower thereof, can fulfill all the pursuits of an aspirant that he may desire for. But every particle of that transcendental realm is so dovetailed in the service of their beloved Sri Krishna that they prevent themselves to expose any of their powers, so great and humble they are in their self-some character. When it necessitates, by dint of fulfilling certain pastimes of their beloved Sri Krishna, they use such magnanimous powers. What a great effluent magnetism of the glories of Raja, that whosoever approaches her with sincerity and truthfulness, at once he is bestowed with highest blessedness in life. Nay, the demon woman Putana, who daubed her mammal glands with most deadly poison with intent to kill the Bala Krishna by giving her breast to suck. But as she came in disguise of motherly love, she got the destiny appropriate to a foster mother. Not only that, even her friends, Agasura, and others who were antagonists to the sadhus, were given position of mukti in their approach to Vraja. How far can I fly in the shoreless ocean of the glories? Vraja is so favorable to him that Sri Krishna allowed himself to be bound by the string at a wooden mortar, and further he ever creates enchantment to the gopis of Vraja. When they clasp their palms, he accordingly dances as per their tune. Encouraged by the coaxing words of the cowherd mistresses, the Lord now sings guilelessly at the top of his voice, behaving like a puppet wholly subjected to their will. Although it is practically impossible for one to fathom the depth of oceanic sweetness, of the immeasurable reservoir of the beatific features of Sri Krishna, yet I venture here with my utmost ability and sincerity to delve deep into it, and may it be like a tiny bird to fly over the shoreless sea. The all-fascinating and all-charming, mysterious beauty in his person, nay, even the cows, deer, birds, trees, and creepers at his very sight get transported with prema, and many of the prema perturbations become visible in them in reciprocating the feelings of joy in drinking the beauty of Sri Krishna. Bhagavat says, having gazed at your bewitching form, cows, birds, trees, and beasts too wear in a thrill of joy. Oh, the dear one, most affectionate darling one, the beauty parlor Sri Krishna robbed of the sweethearts of all the love-laden gopis of Raja, whose chastity, glory, beauty, tender liveliness, and super-excellent characteristics transcend even the greatness of Mahalakshmi of Vaikuntha in all respects. On this account, ladies who are worshipped for their untainted chastity, they too earnestly aspire the dust of gopis' feet. These gopis were so much intoxicated in drinking the beauty of Sri Krishna that they cursed Brahma for providing only 2 eyes, and that too with lashes, in interrupting the sight of Sri Krishna, and on the other hand praised Indra for having been blessed with 1,000 eyes, although they knew his culpability. And with a speculative ambivalence they desired, if only we could convert all the senses into the sense of sight to feast upon the very beauty incarnation Krishna. How can I give vent to their feeling thereof is beyond any expression. Nay, they themselves even cannot express their feelings. How can I narrate the super-excellent transcendental glories of the Raja land? Sri Krishna, the supreme par excellence, in his own self-sum nature, with his supreme paramount beauty parlor, made his descent only at Raja. Such a beatific manifestation never he did elsewhere. Nay, even if he does so in other worlds, including Vaikuntha and Dwarka, the eternal devotees of the respective Dharma may not be able to reciprocate it, because its super-transcendental nectarine bliss cannot be tasted without being pregnant with the sentiment imbibed by the gopis of Vraja. Therefore, never he manifests this beatific Vraja-lila at any other place, which is eternally preserved only at Vraja. He ever remains in his adolescence at Vraja. Therefore, he is known as Kishora Gandhi. But beauty is this, that he ever enjoys his connoisseurship of that he ever enjoys his connoisseurship of youthful pranks with all its paramount charm and beauty. What a glory! That super-transcendental beauty of his adolescence, though eternal, yet gets its ever-freshness, and more magnified, which is beyond any human reasoning and understanding. That is the exceptional beauty and characteristic of Raja Leela of Sri Krishna. The Leela, which he never manifested in his previous different incarnations, in any other world, even which he himself did not attain at his Vaikuntha Leela, whereas in Raja as a mere child, at ease, mysteriously he killed many gigantic demons and forthwith endowed the inhabitants of Raja with abounding bliss. No doubt my avaricious tongue ever cherishes to taste the Madhura rasa. Therefore, although my tongue is lolling for the unalloyed succulence of the most beatific Vrajalila of Sri Krishna, yet I forcibly hold my tongue. Still I am afraid of my competency. It is the very characteristic of the self that even if once the nectarine Leela tidings of the esoteric aspects of Sri Krishna pours into the ears, one at once gets infatuated to drink deep the mellow sweetness thereof, uninterruptedly, and the passionate avaricious thereof trespasses any justification. Therefore, now, in accordance with the passionate lolling of my avaricious tongue, I resort to glorify the beatific aspects of Sri Krishna. Would you like to carry on, please?
Yeah, all right. What a glory! Sri Krishna as a child of only 3 months, while lying on the cradle underneath a cart, just tossed up his tiny feet under as a leaf, turned the cart, tender as a leaf, turned the cart upside down, with the result, although he showed such an immeasurable strength, yet he was crying for a suck of his mother's Yashoda's breast. And again he showed in the cavity of his mouth twice Vishwarupa to his mother Yashoda while he was sucking her breast. Ah, what a mystery! One day, at the age of 1 year, while Yashoda, fondling her darling Sri Krishna in her lap, who suddenly grew so heavy that she could not bear the weight, and soon she placed her babe on the ground, a demon, Trinavarta by name, sent by Kamsa, appeared in the form of a whirlwind, enveloping the entire Gokula in dust and blinding everyone's eyes, and soon carried away the squatting babe Sri Krishna. Carrying away the babe, Trinavarta went up to the sky, but the babe's weight became heavier than himself, and pressed by the babe, the demon fell down dead in Braja. Crying women saw the terrible demon fallen from the sky with his limbs shattered, and were astonished to find their darling babe Sri Krishna dangling on his breast. Nay, what a loveliness and abounding bliss showering, while he was crawling on his knees and smiling to the sole delight of the gopis of Braja, and he stole butter from the neighboring gopis' houses. All these divine leelas of Sri Krishna may ever shine in your heart. Though being chastised by his mother Yashoda, as well as by other elder gopis, he, the supreme, fearfully looked at hither and thither with great anguish. Such a great God is subservient to gopis' love. The Lord, who is the very sustainer of the entire universe, ate earth, and while Mother Yashoda was churning the curd, he prevented her holding the churning stick. Such a most fascinating God may ever shine in my heart. His weeping, breaking the pot full of curd, stealing the butter from the pot kept hanging inside unapproachable place, and his run at the very approach of Mother, apparently out of fear, and his eyes revealing the intense fear he had for committing the offence. All these divine leelas of the Lord may ever protect me. Being tied with a cord round his belly by Mother Yashoda to a heavy wooden mortar, and dragging the mortar behind, he crawled between the 2 Arjuna trees, who were sons of Kubera, born being cursed by Sri Narada. The mortar struck crosswise in between, and the 2 trees, and with the very interposition of his person and with a great vehemence he dragged himself, at which both the trees fell down with a terrible crash, and there arose on that spot two celestial persons, Nalakubara and Manigriva, who with joined palms prayed to him, Sri Krishna, the Lord of all the worlds, let our speech be employed in recounting your excellencies, our ears in hearing your stories, our hands in doing your work, our mind in the thought of your abode, and our sight in beholding saints, your very embodiments. Lord Sri Krishna, yet remaining tethered to the mortar with a string, blessed them, both of them, saying, now both of you have realized me as the highest object of your adoration. Supreme devotion to me, leading to cessation of rebirth, as sought by you, has already been kindled in you both. It is the grace of Narada, my crest-jewel devotee. Your bondage has ceased, and darkness, as darkness disappears with sunrise. Such grace-showering Leela of the Lord is most delightful to my heart and mind. Ah, sportive Sri Krishna, how fond he was of tending cows in the sportive lands of Vrindavan, and on such occasion playfully sent to the world of death Vatsasura and Bakasura, two mighty demons in disguise. Once, while Sri Balarama and Sri Krishna were grazing the cattle on the bank of the Jamuna along with their companions, a demon appeared in disguise as a calf in the herd of calves. Sri Krishna slowly approached him like an ignorant chap, and soon seizing him by his hind legs, gave a revolving and next threw him against a kapita tree. The demon appeared in his own demonic form and fell down dead. The boys applauded. Well done, bravo! Another day, on their roaming in the woods along with other boys, they went to a pond with their cattle to give a drink of water. The boys saw standing a mountain peak. He was indeed a great demon, Baka by name, and disguised as a heron. Approaching all on a sudden, the monster with a sharp beak swallowed Sri Krishna, who burnt the root of the demon's palate, and at once he vomited him, but once more he rushed in with great rage, with intent to kill him with his bill. But Sri Krishna, soon seizing this demon, a friend of Kamsa, by the two halves of his bill, tore up the demon like a blade of grass, in more sporting delight to the denizens of heaven, who from their celestial region showered the jasmine and other blossoms of Nandanavana on him. His comrades, along with Balarama, embraced him. What a bliss! Having been dressed as a shepherd boy with forest wreath like flowers, blossoming foliages, especially peacock feathers on his head, he imitated with the tunes of birds and beasts, sometimes singing in tune with the bees, again uttering sweet notes with cuckoos, sometime ran fast with the birds and dancing with the peacocks, and who enthralled the fortunate ones with blissful notes for playing on the Venu flute on his lips. Such an enchanter may ever enshrine in my heart. One day, while Sri Krishna, along with his comrades, was sporting on the bank of the Jamuna, presently there came a mighty demon, Agha by name, who was the brother of Bakasura and also of Putana. He soon, assuming the monstrous and wonderful form of a boa constrictor, 1 yojana long and stout as a big mountain, he laid down himself across the road with his cave-like mouth wide open, the hope of devouring them all. The cowherd boys at such, taking him to be a beautiful landscape of Vrindavan, all in sportive mood, fancied it to be like the wide open mouth of a boa constrictor. Meanwhile, the children, along with the cattle, made their way into the bowels of the demon, but they were not immediately devoured by the Aga who awaited the entry of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna, who vouchsafed for the protection of his companions, he himself entered into the mouth of the python and speedily grew to huge dimensions to the threat of the monster. Pent up and spread through the internal organs of the monster, whose throat was completely choked. Consequently, his eyes had shot out, and he was indeed rocking from side to side. His vital air thereupon forced its way out, splitting open all on a sudden the aperture of his crown. Lord Sri Krishna, accompanied by his companions, then issued forth from the mouth of the dead monster. What a glory of Sri Krishna! Having death at the hands of Sri Krishna, a light rose from the robust body of the serpent and entered him, thereby got mukti. So I repeatedly perpetuate those wonderful leelas of Sri Krishna. Having rescued his companions from the mouth of Aghasura, he, along with all, came to the very delightful bank of the Jamuna, full of soft and fine sands. The place was surrounded by pleasant trees, charming with the echo of the humming of bees and warbling of birds, and sweet blooming of the fragrance of budding lotuses, etc. They sat just for their midday meals, and all started their lunch seated together round Sri Krishna, like petals set around of a lotus. While the cowherd boys were having their repast, with their mind absorbed in Sri Krishna, the cattle, allured by pasture, strayed far away into the woods. Seeing them oppressed with fear, Sri Krishna said to them, "Friends, do not desist from eating. I shall fetch the cattle here." Saying so, Lord Sri Krishna went on hunting for the cattle in mountain caves, arbors, and forests, holding a buttered morsel of food in his left hand. Brahma, who from the sky felt highly astonished to witness the acts of the Lord, but had ere long, in the absence of the Lord, carried the boys and next hid them in a cave. Sri Krishna at once clearly perceived it all. Sri Krishna made himself appear as equal number of cattle and cowherd boys, as it were. Ah, what a beauty of Brahma's infatuation! And who else can narrate the sweetness of this Leela of the Lord, when the Lord made himself manifested as many number of cattle and cowherds, assuming the same respective disposition and accomplishments, causing himself in the form of cattle, driven back by himself in the form of cowherds, himself being the guide, Lord Sri Krishna sportively entered Braja. Ah, ladies of Braja, hurriedly, as the mothers lifted them up in their arms and closely embracing them, suckled them with the milk from their breasts, looking upon the supreme divinity as their own sons. Who can get such mystery unfolded unto him? May his such leelas ever infatuate my mind. The very ground of these wonderful divine Leela of Sri Krishna is the transcendental land of Braja. So how far can I speak about the treasure of Gokula? Sri Brahma realized the transcendental characteristic of Gokula, and therefore he, with great devotion, humbly made his panegyric to Sri Krishna, who is the very ocean of Mahaprema embodiment. Brahma said, "Will there be my greatest good fortune, whereby my birth is ensured in any species whatsoever on this earth, much more so in Gokula, and still more in Vrindavan, with the privilege of having a bath in the dust of the feet of the inhabitants of Braja, which is sought after by the Shrutis. Nay, the divine beauty of his tending cows in the pasture lands of Braja, although he was the supreme adorable person, yet he ever gave honour to his elder brother Sri Balarama, his glorification of the beauty of Sri Vrindavan, his humming with the tune of bees. All these leelas are bliss showering. May all these leelas ever be perpetuated with loving devotion by you." Another day, Sri Krishna and Balarama, accompanied by other cowherds, entered into the forest of palmyra trees. Balarama, thoroughly shaking the palm trees on all sides with his both arms, like an elephant calf, caused their fruits to fall down. Hearing the sound of the falling of fruits, the demon Dhenukasura, in the guise of a donkey, rushed towards Balarama, making the earth's surface quake along with mountains. Coming up with great speed, the powerful demon struck Balarama in the chest with both of his hind legs, and giving forth a harsh cry, the wicked fellow ran hither and thither. Second time, when it came, Balaram seized it by the forepart of its leg with one hand, and whirling it, dashed it against a palmyra tree, at which the demon breathed its last. Other donkeys, the kindred of Dhenuka, all then rushed in fury towards Sri Krishna and Balarama, who playfully dashed each of them against the trees and put an end to their clan. At times, Sri Krishna would himself refresh Balarama, who was exhausted with play and lying with his head placed on the pillow-like lap of a cowherd, by kneading his feet and other services. Again, at the twilight time, while they returned to Braja, the cowherd women of Braja, who were in great agony due to their eyes in meeting their sinecure darling Sri Krishna, how fascinatingly and beautifully he was shining, with the peacock's tail on his crown and forest flowers fastened to his curly locks, soiled with the dust raised by hooves of cows, with smiling face and playing on his flute, drinking with their bee-like eyes the honey-like beauty of the lotus face of Sri Krishna. The women of Braja dismissed the agony born of their separation from the Lord during the daytime, and Sri Krishna entered Braja, duly receiving their homage, which took the form of sidelong glances accompanied by bashful smiles. Nay, now once again I am afraid to enter deep into many such esoteric transcendental Leela of Sri Krishna, particularly about his favour towards the women of Braja. I cannot even make adequate panegyric to those blessed Leelas of Sri Krishna. Far to delve deep into them, it might become a trespass into the world of Prema, so I merely salute them with my utmost reverence. Again, it is practically impossible for me to perpetuate his grace on Kalia, the most poisonous serpent. What a mystery! The fierce cobra became so lucky that Sri Krishna, whose foot dust is sought after by Brahma, Shiva, and himself Narada, leapt on its hoods and danced, his lotus feet turning crimson due to their contact with the multitudes of jewels on its hoods, and also bespattered with the drops of blood ejected from the eyes of the serpent. The Lord appeared as though devoutly worshipped with flowers. Yet at that very Leela, the cobra Kalia enwrapped the darling of Braja, and looking at Sri Krishna caught in the coils of the cobra and devoid of motion in the midst of the pool, the cowherds, to whom Sri Krishna was the very life, dropped down senseless. In utter distress, the cattle stood as if weeping in great fear, with their eyes riveted on Sri Krishna, and some of them piteously crying all around. Hearing the news of this incident, all the inhabitants of Braja, including children, the aged, and womenfolk, ran to the bank of Jamuna. The cowherd women, recalling his love, smiles, glances, and utterances, felt agonized with utmost sorrow, and saw the three worlds desolate without their darling, shedding tears of grief, equally pained, all others as they were, stood as though dead, with their eyes riveted on the countenance of Sri Krishna. I am unable to perpetuate this anecdote, for, first of all, when I remember Kalia's cruel entrapping of Sri Krishna with its coils, I feel as a death blow to me. But again, when I notice Sri Krishna subjugating the cobra, and in a sportive mood, his leaping on its hoods and dancing, that makes me laugh. These two variegated characteristics of the Lord create diversifying sentiments, and marvel me, therefore, how I can expound it. Where a severe punishment was due to the crooked serpent, the Lord blessed him with placing his lotus feet on its hoods and pleasantly danced. It is a subjugation, or is it a subjugation, or really an invocation for blessings? Nay, this compassionate blessing of the Lord, even Lord Shesha will not be able to justify. Ah, I salute even those wives of the Kalia who all justifiably and fervently prayed to the Lord. Can't I?
Yes.
That was so well narrated, Madan. It was incredible.
Well, go up till 9 o'clock then, yeah? We'll
As
finish
long
then.
as you want to, I'm ready. As long as you want to. Okay.
Right, I do have to get up early for
Okay.
work.
Then. You're the boss. Okay. Hari Bol.
Okay, Kano, so read up till 9 o'clock, yeah?
Yes.
But stop yourself. Don't wait to be stopped. Huh?
Okay.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri
Jai.
Krishna.
Jai Gopakumara.
Next, after subjugating Kalya, Sri Krishna, along with the inhabitants of Vraja, spent that night near the bank of the Kalindi. But in the course of that night, a wildfire broke out in the forest, resulting in burning of the whole Vraja. The people of Vraja got bewildered and sought Sri Krishna as their sole refuge. Sri Krishna, observing the perturbation of his own men, at once swallowed up that fierce conflagration. Still mysterious Leela he did at Munjavan, when another day there broke out on all sides huge wildfire, playing havoc with the inhabitants of the forest, at which the cowherds, as well as the cows, felt dismayed to discern the conflagration, and sought refuge in Sri Krishna, who said to shut your eyes and do not be afraid. So saying, he swallowed up the terrible fire and thus completely rid them of the peril. And his most pleasant sports at the Pandiravan, where a game was played in carrying and being carried, at which game a mighty demon named Pralamba joined. who, bearing on his back Sri Balaram, ran post-haste beyond the limit, having resumed his demoniac form, soaring in the skies to great speed, with burning eyes and hair glowing as flames, and with his fearful tusks reaching the end of his contracted eyebrows, and looking uncanny with the splendor of his bracelets, coronet, and earrings. Balaram hit the enemy on his head with his strong fist, at which the demon felt a thunder-like bolt, even as Indra would strike a mountain. With this single hit, his head smashed forthwith, and vomiting blood, the demon fell dead. Sri Krishna trickily introduced this game for enhancing the glories of Sri Balaram, his elder brother. All these divine sports may shower bliss upon all. Again, during the rainy season, while it rained, the Lord took shelter in the hollow of a tree or in a cave and sported there, eating bulbs, roots, and fruits, or he ate curd rice brought from home, seated on a slab close to the water in the company of the cowherds and Balaram. How pleasant are those leelas of the Lord! Next, at the approach of the autumn, with the blossoming of lotuses, waters regained their transparency like aesthetics, free from all desires, and shine with pure luster, becoming composed. The ocean became calm and quiet, like the mind of a yogi at complete rest. The cloudless sky looked charming at night, with its stars twinkling brightly like the mind with the sattvic quality, which reveals the true impost of the scriptures of the scripture. But what a wonder and alluring characteristic of the gopis of Vraja, that due to autumnal season, the pleasant breeze that blew with the sweet fragrance of the blossoms of the woods, all people dismissed their anguish, whereas the gopis' mind became turbulent with passionate cupidity in enhanced poignancy of holding into their bosom Sri Krishna. May ever be glorified such very many sports of Sri Krishna. Ah, the maddening sportive smile on his lips, ever fresh gladdening beauty on his eyes. How Makara-shaped dazzling earrings swing from his ears, kissing his cheeks. The curling coil of black hair decorating his forehead. How wonderfully shines his beautiful face. Kissing the flute with his blessed lips, keeping the head decorated with peacock's tail. Brilliantly swings the Vajjayantimal round his neck, and clothed in beauty of eternal spring. Fully blossomed with all his effulgence, at twilight the Lord enters Vrindavan in dancing. All the men and the women of Raja athirst, drink uninterruptedly with their unwinking eyes. Nay, the nectar-pouring notes from his flute enraptures the gopis, who became turbulent with passionate cupidity, to fold him into their bosom with enhanced poignancy. Lo, may I have a vision of this blissful sports, says Narad. Narad further said, Ah, what an esoteric sweetness his transcendental, erotic love sports with the gopis. The gopis, here Kumarikas, who observed a vow of worshipping goddess Katyayani with their sole prayer, may the Devi make the son of the cowherd Nanda my husband. And on the concluding day, rising early in the morning with the singing, the glories of Sri Krishna merrily entered into the waters of Jamuna for ablution, naked, leaving their every piece of clothes on the bank, when Sri Krishna suddenly appeared there and stealthily took their clothes away. He hastily climbed up a nearby Kadamba tree and jestingly spoke, "Oh, gopis, each one of you should come here and receive your own clothes. I have never told a lie, and so there is no alternative." Nay, Their prayer could not bring any change in his mind, so ultimately shrunk with shivering chillness, they emerged from the waters, covering their privy parts with palms, as if they were dead out of great shame. Lo, the Lord, the enjoyer of unstinted soul, perceiving their supremely pure heart, now placed the clothes on his shoulder, which were so far kept on the tree, and pronounced, "You entered into the waters in a nude state, which is an offense and also a violating of the sanctity of your vow. Therefore, for expiation, all of you should join your palms on the crown of your head and then receive your clothes." When they ultimately did so and bowed to him who is the sole proprietor of the selves, the Lord returned their clothes. Lo, even though they were badly stripped of all shame, ridiculed, and treated as toys, yet they did not find fault with him. Nay, highly gratified as they had the company of their beloved Lord. Ah, when should I have a vision of this supermundane, most esoteric nectarine Leela of Sri Krishna with enhanced poignancy? Further, he continued, I make my humble panegyric to such a sportive Sri Krishna with perpetuating his wonderful Leela. One day when Vedic Brahmanas were conducting an Angiras sacrifice, he sent his companion cowherds to get some food from them, but being disappointed, the boys came back, and having intimated Sri Krishna, who now requested them to approach their Brahmanas' wives, soon the virtuous wives of the Brahmins heard of Sri Krishna having come near. They were ever anxious to meet him, having their mind lured by hearing his glories, were seized with a flurry. They took in vessels excellent food and ran towards him, like the water of rains flowing towards the ocean, in spite of the intervention of their husbands, brothers, and other relatives. Ah, when Sri Krishna was sauntering under ashok trees, resting his one hand on the shoulder of a devoted companion and swinging a lotus with the other, they, the wives of the Brahmins, resorted to him in the grove on the bank of the Jamuna. Oh, ho, the most fortunate ladies as they were, they ushered into their heart by the gates of their eyes him on whom they had set their mind through hearing the glories of that most lovable one. And embracing him for a pretty long time, they shook off their agony, as it were, a soul in union with the Supreme. But what a wonder, although they prayed, O Almighty Lord, we believe in your words. On having attained me, one does not return. And, this is their prayer. O Almighty Lord, we believe in your words. On having attained me, one does not return. And we are so ordained that no other asylum is left to us who have fallen at your feet. Sri Krishna thus spoke. It is but proper for you that you have come with a longing to meet me in teeth of all opposition. Surely the wise duly practice uninterrupted devotion direct to me, their own beloved Lord. But return to your home. Your husbands, parents, brothers, sons, and others will not be finding any fault at you, nor be angry with you, since you have been favored by me. Even the gods approve of your conduct. Devoting your mind to me, you will attain to me before long. So saying, and giving a goodbye to them, the Lord, having fed the cowherd boys with the food that were brought by those ladies, he himself partook of it. On their return, the Vedic Brahmanas, with remorse, said, These ladies are most fortunate indeed. Neither they got purificatory rites or of investiture with sacred thread of a twice-born, nor have resided in the preceptor's house for learning the Vedas as we did. nor any austerity performed by them, yet they possess unswerving devotion to Krishna, the Lord of the universe. Buy unto us when we are devoid of devotion to Sri Krishna. They, our ladies, have cut asunder the snares of death, going by the name of household ties, by their uninterrupted devotion to Sri Krishna. Sri Narad continued, Ah, how Sri Krishna made his people worship the Govardhan. Once, when Sri Nanda Maharaj, along with the people of Raja, arranged as a spectacular performance of a yajna for Indra, Sri Krishna, the monitor of all souls, directed them towards worshipping Govardhan with these collected materials. Nay, when hundreds of people were engaged for cooking and thousands varieties of food were placed before the Govardhan, as it were, hillock of consecrated food. What a wonder Sri Krishna himself assumed the form as Govardhan hill and himself offered his greeting to that other self of his, saying, Oh, look here, appearing in a visible form, this mountain shows his grace to us. We bow to him. Next, in the form of Govardhan, Sri Krishna swallowed every offering and blessed them. Being deprived of the offerings, Indra, the king of heaven, became angry and poured with heavy rains, hailstorms, and thunders, flooding the whole land of Raja and threatening the inhabitants of Raja with dire consequences of death. But lo, Sri Krishna, a boy of mere 7 years, took the mighty mountain up on the tip of the little finger of his left hand, and like a child, with an open umbrella, without stirring from his position for a week, gave shelter till the cloud was clear to Gopas and Gopis along with their belongings, including cattle, and protected them from Indra's wrath. Sri Krishna crushed the pride of Indra, the Vedic deity who now bowed down to the playful god in human form. Indra, accompanied with his Surabhi, approached Sri Krishna and prostrating himself before him, begged pardon of him. Sri Surabhi gave an ablution to Sri Krishna with her milk and entitled him with the name Govinda. Overflowing with an onrush of love, the people of Raja embraced him, and the ladies joyously sprinkled curds and parched rice on him. Sri Nanda Maharaj narrated before the inhabitants of Raja what the sage Garga told him about the superhuman nature of this boy, Sri Krishna. And having heard the statement of Sri Nanda Maharaj, who recapitulated the words of Garga, the people of Raja, who already had witnessed the superhuman feats and glories of Sri Krishna, felt rejoiced and worshipped Nanda as well as Sri Krishna, now that their astonishment was gone. I pray to recapitulate with my utmost love those sweet divine sports of Sri Krishna, the Lord of love transcendent in his own self-some original form. So says sage Narad. If that's a good place to stop.
I think maybe you can read up to the next page, the second paragraph on the next page.
All right.
And where it says that, and felt greatly amazed. If you read up to there, you see it?
No.
Yeah, you carry on. Sri Narada went on.
Yeah.
And read up to felt greatly amazed on the next page.
Oh, I see. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's go. Sri Narada went on. Ah, wonder. Once when Sri Nanda Maharaj at night was taking bath in the Kalindi, a demon servant of Varuna, god of the sea, seized him and took him to Varuna. Sri Krishna, coming to know of it, sought to Varuna the return of Nanda. Realizing Sri Krishna as the Supreme, Varuna felt himself supremely blessed at his presence and returned Nanda Maharaj to him with grand presents, and paying due homage, said, "Today my life has been fulfilled, and a real treasure I found. Hail to you, the Almighty Lord! Having the sight of your lotus feet, the end of my worldly existence seems to be near. May you be pleased to forgive me and be pleased to shower your grace on me." Sri Krishna came back with his father Nanda. Astonishing indeed to witness the immense fortune of Varuna as well as the submissiveness of Varuna to Sri Krishna. Nanda spoke about it to the people of Raja, who, believing Sri Krishna to be the God himself, thought within themselves, "Our Lord Sri Krishna will not take us to that unknown transcendental realm of his own." Omniscient Lord Sri Krishna, knowing the wish of his own men, revealed to them his own realm Vaikuntha, which lies beyond Prakriti, or mundane world, and which is absolutely transcendental, self-effulgent. Being transported to that world, Nanda and others were indeed exhilarated with supreme ecstasy to behold the said realm as well as Sri Krishna being panegyrized there by the four Vedas in their living forms, and felt greatly amazed.
Wow. Hare Ba. Jai Brajendra Nandana Shri Krishna ki Jai.
Jai.
That's great. So that's quite a good place to stop, because now it changes, the themes changes somewhat now. So in the Dashams, in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, it would begin the Rasa Leela, the 5 chapters of the Rasa Leela. So we can start with that next time. What do you think?
Shall I stop the recording now?
Yeah.